WWE stars are jealous of Zilla Fatu's NXT debut. WWE spends weeks hyping a debut, vignettes, QR codes, cryptic countdown clocks nobody can fully decode until the night it finally happens. Zilla Fatu got none of that. There was no vignette warning anybody this was coming, not even a single promotional post from WWE's own accounts. He just walked out during the NXT main event, wiped out two guys, and by the next morning the clip had pulled over 16 million views across WWE's platforms alone. In under 15 hours, with zero setup. That kind of number doesn't come from a hype debut. It comes from an audience that already wanted this guy before WWE ever said his name on television. Welcome back to WWE Galaxy, I'm Nova. And I want to talk about what those numbers actually mean, because a viral clip is one thing, but this is different. This is a signal, and it's pointed in multiple directions at once, at the locker room, at Raw and SmackDown, and honestly at WWE's own creative team. Because a number like this doesn't just measure one good night, it measures whether the company's actually sitting on something they need to treat differently than a normal call-up. WWE usually spends weeks building a debut like this out, graphics teasing a silhouette, a countdown clock, maybe a cryptic QR code segment that takes 3 weeks to actually pay off into an answer. Zilla Fatu skipped every single step of that. He showed up completely unannounced in the middle of a #1 contenders match between Grayson Waller and Cruz Montana, hit Montana with a pop-up Samoan drop as a straight tribute to his father, nearly took Waller's head off with a Superman punch, and capped it with an Uso splash for good measure. Booker T, sitting on commentary, could barely get the call out fast enough. Then Zilla turned around and stared straight down Tony D'Angelo, who wasn't even scheduled to be part of the segment, and told him there's a new sheriff in town. 16 million views in under 15 hours isn't a number WWE's marketing department produced. That's the audience doing it entirely on their own, without a single promotional push to prime them for it. That's the part that should actually scare people in this business. You can build hype. You can buy ad placements and flood timelines with graphics. You cannot manufacture an organic explosion like that. Either the audience already wants you, or they don't, and no marketing budget changes which one is true. Here's why that number makes sense once you actually look at it instead of just being amazed by it. WWE didn't have to introduce Zilla Fatu to anybody. The internet's known who he is for years. Fans have been tracking his independent run since he debuted back in 2023. They watched him build a reputation across multiple promotions, watched him lean into his father's legacy every time he stepped in a ring, and openly campaigned for Triple H to sign him long before House of Glory ever gave him that farewell send-off. When Booker T, the same guy who trained him, ended up sitting on commentary the exact night he debuted, that's WWE acknowledging the audience already had a relationship with this guy before he ever signed a contract, not some scripted coincidence tugging at heartstrings. That's why the pop hit as hard as it did. Nobody in that arena needed a vignette explaining who Zilla Fatu was. They already knew. WWE just had to open the door and let him walk through it. And there's a detail in how WWE handled his introduction that shows they understood exactly what they had. Zilla and Booker T actually had a real public falling out at one point, the kind of thing that could easily have kept them apart permanently. Instead, Booker's the one training him, and Booker's the one calling his debut like it means something to him personally. That's not a small production choice. That's WWE recognizing the story already had weight attached to it before a single bell rang, and choosing to lean into that instead of ignoring it. Add in the Umaga tribute built into his very first offense, the pop-up Samoan drop specifically, and you've got a debut that wasn't just introducing a new guy, it was reintroducing a legacy the audience already missed. None of this happened out of nowhere either. Crowds were already chanting his name during NXT appearances months before he ever signed anything, well before House of Glory sent him off with that farewell match against Amazing Red. WWE wasn't discovering a hidden gem here. They were finally cashing in on a name the audience had been asking for out loud for a long time. Smash that like button and get subscribed to WWE Galaxy if you're into breakdowns like this one, because what comes next is where it gets uncomfortable for a few people backstage. Sit with this for a second. Guys grinding through Raw and SmackDown every single week, building their characters match by match, promo by promo, just watched an NXT rookie pull numbers on his first night that plenty of established main roster stars would kill for. That's not a small thing to process if you're one of the names competing for a spot on that roster. It sends one clear message straight to the back of the building. There's a new name the audience already cares about, and he didn't need years of storyline investment to get there. He needed one night and one entrance, and it's not like this happened in a vacuum either. The second the clip hit, the Usos were already reposting it with the blood drop emoji. Jacob Fatu responded the same way after Zilla posted a simple hello of his own. And suddenly everybody's talking about where Zilla fits into the wider family story instead of just how good his debut looked. That's the kind of instant relevance most call-ups spend months trying to build. He got it in one segment, and he didn't even need to share a ring with a single Bloodline member to make it happen. Guys already fighting for screen time in that same extended family storyline should be paying close attention to what just happened here. Zilla didn't need to be booked next to Roman Reigns or Jacob Fatu to get folded into that conversation. The internet did it for him, in real time, off nothing but a debut and two emojis. That's the kind of momentum a lot of established guys on the roster have been trying to manufacture for years. And it's worth remembering this isn't some green rookie getting a lucky rub either. He's held titles across multiple promotions and built real credibility on the independent circuit long before WWE ever called. That combination, a guy who already knows how to hold a crowd walking straight into a storyline this connected, is exactly why the locker room reaction to this debut is worth paying attention to. So here's where the pressure actually shifts, because it's not on Zilla anymore. He did his job. He brought the eyeballs, the reaction, and a debut number most call-ups never sniff in their first year, let alone their first night. Now it's entirely on Shawn Michaels and Triple H. If they book him the way the reaction is begging them to, dominant, dangerous, protected like a guy who actually matters instead of somebody feeding wins to the established roster, this turns into the start of something real. Respect the Umaga connection instead of just referencing it once for a pop. Let him actually be a threat to Tony D'Angelo instead of just another name padding out the card while he waits his turn. And you're looking at a guy who could realistically be one of the biggest stars WWE has a decade from now. But water it down, and this becomes one more story about a guy who peaked the night he showed up. WWE has done that before. Big reaction, huge numbers, and then months of nothing until the moment quietly evaporates and everybody moves on. 16 million organic views isn't something you get handed twice. If this gets wasted, it's not getting reproduced with a second debut down the line. And the timing makes this even less forgiving. NXT Heatwave is already on the calendar, and the championship picture Zilla just inserted himself into is sitting wide open. That's not a storyline WWE gets to slow play for months while they figure out what to do with him. The audience already told them what they want. The only question left is whether creative actually listens to that, or lets the moment cool off, waiting for a plan that should have already been in motion. So that's where this actually sits. Zilla Fatu already proved the audience wants him. Now it's just a question of whether WWE's smart enough to give him what that reaction is clearly asking for. Debuts like this don't come around often, and when they do, how a company responds in the first few weeks usually tells you everything about where that talent ends up in 5 years. Do you think Shawn Michaels and Triple H actually run with this, or does he cool off waiting for a plan? Let me know your take in the comments, like the video if that debut hit the way it hit me, and get subscribed for everything that comes next. Catch you on the next breakdown. This is Nova.